Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to be going into space. We're going to be going farther than anyone has gone before. We are going to the final frontier to talk about growth-driven design. And really what that means is how can we make your website not only an effective marketing tool, but an effective sales management tool and really part of your overall ecosystem and make it the best it can possibly be. So my name is Trigby. As always, I'm the Director of Buzz Development here at BusyWeb. Let's go ahead and get started. If this is your first Busy webinar, we do these about the second Wednesday of every month. We are a full-service digital and growth marketing agency based out of the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Primarily, our focuses are on web design and inbound marketing, with digital marketing meeting in the middle of that. We have an extensive list of awards and certifications, including Constant Contact, Google, HubSpot. We are a platinum partner with HubSpot. We are agency partner certified, and we are a Grow with Google high impact partner. Today, though, I have a special guest star with me, so it's not going to be just me today. You get two busy bees for the price of one. Ryan Washington is joining us today. Say hi to everybody, Ryan.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be here, Trigby. Thanks for asking me to join you.
Oh, man. I thought I had a nice deep baritone voice, but I'm going to have to clear my throat and get a little deeper so I can match your timbre. So.
Hey.
Ryan, you're been with BusyWeb for a little under a year now. Tell us about what you do here at BusyWeb.
Yeah, so I am a part of the business development team with Trigby here at BusyWeb. I've been aboard the team since about mid-January or so. So just starting to get my feet wet with you guys and helping the Twin Cities and beyond with their growth marketing needs.
So Ryan is going to be a great test case as we talk about growth-driven design today. So Ryan, when we hired you, what did we just kind of give you a phone book and say go to town, or was there a training program involved?
Yeah, there was a very strenuous, I want to say, training program where I got involved with all of the different certified, through all the different HubSpot programs that we used. And then additionally, I set in through all the different kind of phases of our company and the different teams to kind of learn how we did things and to make sure that when I did go out to sell, that I was going to be selling everything to the BusyWeb standard um, that we like to hold everybody accountable to.
So why do you think we put you through that training process?
Well, I think primarily, I know I had a background that wasn't in sales, so I think that had a lot to do with it. But I think also, whenever you're bringing somebody new into a company, you kind of want them to understand what the culture is, as well as what are the different kind of processes and the workflows that all the different teams operate within, to make sure that when I join, that I'm able to kind of operate seamlessly within the procedures that we already had set up and established.
Yeah, and I think another good way to say that is we hired you for a certain amount of talent, and you brought a certain amount of things to the table, which was great. But and certainly we love having you here. But I think the next step is we want you to get better.
Sure.
We want you to get learn from your mistakes. We want to have you learn from certain data points, and ultimately, we want you to continually get better at your job in order to help other people. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring you in to talk about website design, because there's a couple of different ways in which you can think about how to redesign your website, or why should you redesign your website. I mean, first and foremost is if you've got somebody who's got a website who's not performing, well, then it might be time to change that. But in addition to that, you might have less leads than before. Ultimately, there are a couple of different styles of website. I think one of the more common ones, and one of the ones that we focus on at BusyWeb, is a lead generator site. We want to have a website that actually creates forward momentum in our customers' prospects' minds, so that they're actually delivering on some sort of return and they're getting new leads and new customer acquisition strategies. It might be that your organic rankings are slipping, where your competition is eclipsing you and getting more leads and more people to their website, more visibility. Or you just haven't put any new content on the site. Much like with Ryan, if we don't continually feed him, he's just going to, be the same. And so we need to make sure that we're constantly putting new information in and continually making him better and better. Or it might have been several years since your website was designed in the first place and the technology's changed. One of the questions that we get asked all the time is your websites that you build mobile responsive? And we kind of have to think about that for a second, because we've made the change several years ago to just say, well, yeah, everything that we're going to design is going to be mobile responsive. And so sometimes it's hard to remember that some people haven't caught up to that. Or you just say, no, I've never actually gotten a lead from my website. So then it begs the question, Ryan, what good is a website for you if it's not doing anything?
I couldn't tell you. If it's not bringing you any return on investment, I don't think it's doing anything good.
Yep. So much like Ryan, who's bringing a return on investment, we're going to encourage you today to be like Ryan.
Wow.
Continue to work, continue to grow, and use metrics in order to make your website one of the most effective tools in your business arsenal. So today we're going to be talking about what does traditional website look like? And this is something we still do at BusyWeb. It's not our preference, obviously, but it is something that we do. And we're going to sort of lay our design strategy a little bare. Then we're going to talk about growth-driven design. And sometimes I might shorthand that to say GDD. So that's why I have it listed there. Then we'll talk about what is it exactly going to take to get to growth, and how do you run a design process. So this should look familiar. Ryan, since you work for me, I have what I think is a fairly benign, easy thing to say, where I just say, oh, well, just go do that. And then you feel like Captain Kirk there, where it's just, you're getting hit from every different angle, and it's never really what you want it to be, and it's changing, and it's always constantly evolving, and it's hard to actually accomplish something when you're starting when you're starting a creative project, right?
Absolutely. They say one man's clarity is another man's confusion. So
And we talked about this yesterday, because you had a phone call with somebody who had a website where we didn't think it looked very good, but they thought it looked great.
yeah, I think I called when I pulled up the website. It seemed like the text kind of read right to left, and it was split in half with a picture, and it looked kind of wonky. And they said, nope, that's exactly what we're going for.
Yeah. So sometimes people have an idea of what they want. They want to go with it, but when you use aesthetic type scenario discussions where you're saying, well, just make it good or make it cool. What I think is cool is completely different than what Ryan thinks is cool, which is completely different with what you might think is cool. So instead, you try and come up with a certain specific lexicon of things. So you start with about a 6-month design cycle. And part of that is making sure that your design team, your production team, and what you want is actually on the same page. And then you don't really have a strategy about what pages are going to drive the traffic, but you know that you have a story to tell, and you want to make sure that you're telling all of it for every possible different variety of how the story gets told. It's a large cost for a time frame. Really, anybody who knows what they're doing when it comes to web design should be charging you at least 4 figures for a website. If they don't, you should run screaming. And it's also a big job for you. Even though you're hiring somebody to do the work for you and ostensibly become the expert, you still have to do approvals. You have to create content or approve content. You have to work with them to come up with the right imagery for them. And then once you launch it, you don't really deal with it at that point. A lot of times you're just so frustrated, you just don't even want to think about it. So it's out there and you're getting compliments and you're kind of like, yeah, great. But you kind of leave it for a while. So you do get an uptick in rankings just after launch, but that's just about that. And the reason here is because web design on the whole, it doesn't really make a good business sense anymore with the constantly reiterative world that we live in. Ryan, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying. Any halfway decent website is gonna cost you lots of money upfront, and so whether that is $15,000 or somewhere around that, you're gonna have to put half of that money down right when you're signing up, and the resources that it takes as you're building out the website, where you're going to have the strategy meetings, the content creation, the approval of the different imagery and the architecture. All of that stuff takes time out of the business owner's schedule, and so that's obviously something that's very, very difficult. Also, especially kind of thinking about the COVID world that we live in with the long designs cycle, is uh, the current web design gives you kind of a snapshot in time. So as you're building out a website, say you started in the middle of the summer last year, and you just finally got the website launched in January of 2020. Well, you take a look at where we are now, the the content, and kind of where we've been working with a lot of our partners and clients is kind of is looking at how their product now interacts differently with their target audience due to COVID and some other kind of social justice changes that are going on in the world. And somebody that just kind of launched a website that they had been working on in the middle of last year, well, you flash a forward 5, 6 months later, and it's already static. It's already aged, and you don't have the flexibility to make the changes that you want. Yep. So at the end of the project, you end up like this guy, just absolutely flummoxed, kind of wondering what the heck did I spend all of that time and money for when I'm already sitting with something that's outdated and doesn't perform the way that we need it to.
Do you not know who that guy is? We're doing a
I
whole Star Trek
I
webinar, and you
I
don't recognize Captain Kirk?
I told you yesterday that I'm not a Star Trek guy. I don't know what you expected me to do.
I, I just like to say to basically our entire creative and production staff who's listening right now is he does not speak for the sales team. He is, we know exactly who those were. Those are tribbles, Ryan. They're multiply, and they're problems that just continue to multiply and fall on your head when you've got a static website design. So
Ah,
instead, what it could be is you could have it created not for you, but for your ideal customer. So those people who are the best fits, the people you really enjoy working with, the people who give you the most money with the least amount of grief. That's what an ideal customer is. And you could create your website built for them. You could have it launched in about 90 days, and it would be smaller than a big giant website, but it would grow where your users want you to grow, not where you think you should grow, or where a marketing guy like Ryan and I tell you, oh, you really need this to grow. You grow based on what your users are asking for, based on demand, and it's designed on your business goals. So if you are really trying to use your website for new customer acquisition, then there are a certain set of standards that have to be followed in order to get that to happen. And that's designed about what your business specific business goal is, not what somebody is deciding, making an aesthetic choice. And it's also updated continually. And the reason that it gets updated continually is because you want people to come back over and over and over again. There's a great store that I enjoy going to called TJ Maxx. I didn't really enjoy going to it, but they've sort of understood the idea of their business model, which is that their inventory is ever changing. To a certain extent, if you go to Target, the men's clothes are going to be in the same place, the toys are going to be in the same place, the electronics are going to be in the same place, and it doesn't change. There's a reason for that, and it's usually a good one, but it needs to continually be updated and changed. And that's what TJ Maxx does, is they've leaned into the idea that you should always continue to come back because there's always going to be something new here. And a really great website should also be integrated into your business processes. What do we mean by that? Well, things like if a form gets filled out, then it should automatically be dropped into your CRM and your salesperson should get notification of it. Or if somebody fills out a support ticket on your website, then that person who filled it out, that should be the end of it for them. But your support team should know of it, and they should be alerted of it, and they should be able to take a response back. And all that should happen automatically without anything changing. And that's really what the value of a growth-driven design is. And so you might say to yourself, no, just no. That's silly talk, right, Ryan? That's just, there's no way that can actually happen.
I that's how I've heard a lot of people describe it, that
Yeah.
it's a fairy tale.
Yeah, well, it actually can, and the reason is that the model for really effective business website design has changed into growth-driven design. So, Ryan, what you described on the bottom there was sort of the traditional stepped process where you design a site and then nothing really changes for about 2.5 years, and then all of a sudden you get great impact growth
Hmm.
because you launched a new site, and then you run it out for another 2.5 years, and then you not much changes, but then you get another big impact growth because you've changed your site again.
Hmm.
Well, in a growth-driven design model, we take more of a staircase approach where we're continually getting better, bit by bit, quicker. So you can see there's a faster launch, and the challenges are minimized because we're really only doing the things we have to do right now. And as things grow and as demand grows, then little things get added and things get better. The really great value proposition, and the two words that I love to leave people with and thinking about, is your website is a continuous improvement process. Much like Ryan at BusyWeb, he's not standing on his laurels. He's always trying to get better. He's always trying to learn more. He's always trying to figure out new ways in which he could connect with customers and prospects in a positive way and on their time frame and on their terms in order to be helpful. In addition to that, a really good GDD website integrates both with marketing and sales so that everything is driven by those two teams working together. So how do we do that? Well, it starts with how to get to getting to growth. So Ryan, what is a buyer's journey, and how does it work? I've got a messy graphic here up on screen, but can you walk us through it?
Yeah, so the buyer's journey is kind of the journey that a visitor to the website takes. And what you're looking at is you're looking at the actionable data that kind of talks about how long they spend on your website, and kind of a learning of what your customers' behavior is on the website, to make sure that you are solidifying all of those areas where maybe you're finding, hey, when they get to this part, they're dropping off. So making sure that you're educating the buyer about your business, and making sure that you're providing kind of helpful information to them on the website that kind of moves them through of the buyer and the selling journey, um, as they're with you.
I think what's really interesting about this diagram that we have on here is that there's all sorts of different sort of tactics of what we're talking about. You know, things like online ads, social media, a website, e-commerce, frequently asked questions, newsletters, blogs, all these different things that a lot of people get sold on a regular basis. Oh, you got to have this, Ryan. It's the most important thing you can ever do. But they come into play at different points of a buyer's journey, because what a buyer needs to hear changes as they move themselves through the journey. So when I start in the awareness stage, I might not even understand that I have a problem that needs to be solved. So understanding, or I might understand that I have a problem, but I don't know how to solve it. And that's when I go looking for solutions. And that's the consideration phase, which is what could solve my problem. And then when I purchase, then that becomes a decision-making process. And I say, okay, I'm going to buy from Ryan. That's great. And what then? Well, almost immediately I have problems, and that's where frequently asked questions and the knowledge base comes into play. So the value proposition when we're talking about growing is understanding that your customers are going to take a monster zigzag line from not knowing you to buying from you and becoming a raving fan. So when you follow their journey through the sale, that involves a whole lot of different things and understanding what that actually looks like. In order to do that, you need a lot of traffic and you need a lot more data. So how do we get more data? How do we really navigate to growth? So since Ryan, this is the Star Trek stuff is all new to you. This is the end of the one of the best Star Trek movies, which is The Undiscovered Country. And so Kirk says, second star to the right and straight on till morning. Are you? Let's test how smart you are. Do you remember what that's actually from before that Star Trek movie?
I don't know if we're testing about how smart I am. I think we might be testing how dated I am, and I fail on both accounts.
Got it. Well, either way, that's how you get to Neverland from
Oh,
Wendy's
okay.
house.
Oh, okay, okay. Actually, yeah, I should know that. I should
Yeah,
know that.
is second star to the right and
Okay.
until morning. And we've talked about a lot of big ideas today, and some of these seem a little scary, and some of these seem a little hard. And so that's why we want to make sure that we leave people with a navigable pace on how to get there. So first of all, it's important to have marketing because we simply need data, and we need more people going to the website so that we can have a better class of understanding where they're coming from. So in order to do that, we want to use a number of different tools: inbound marketing, digital marketing, online sales, offline sales. Anything that we can do to drive people to the website helps us make better choices quicker. And so any growth-driven design project really needs to have a good concerted effort when it comes to digital marketing strategies as well. So in order to do that, you need to optimize your calls to action, make sure that everything is optimized in terms of search engine optimization, making sure people are actually getting engaged in the process. But as you can see with that blue line there, Ryan, is that the impact line goes up quicker the more data we have, which is really an incredibly valuable piece.
Sure.
So how do we start this? Ryan, do you want to, how do you start a growth-driven design process?
Well, any kind of a process like this where you're gonna need data, you're gonna want to start to set out some goals for yourself and for the website that you're gonna want to meet. And so one of the first things that you want to make sure that your goals for the website are specific. So something that is, targeted towards an actual tangible goal that you're looking to meet. You want to make sure that that goal is measurable.
So like a specific goal, that would be something like, instead of saying, I want to grow my website traffic, is I want to grow my website traffic by 15%.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, you were on measurable next.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. So the next thing that you want to make sure is you want to make sure that you want to make sure that your goals are measurable. And by that, you're saying that that again, that is something that you can actually measure. So you're not saying I want to grow and just grow. You're saying I want to grow by X, Y, and Z, and then making sure that you have the mechanisms in place to actually track what that growth was to see if you met your goals.
Okay.
Okay.
Once we make our SMART goal for our website, we've done specific, measurable, and achievable, and then realistic and timely. So,
Yeah.
Here at BusyWeb, we love our acronyms, and that's certainly a good one. But ultimately, what if I understand correctly, Ryan, if I heard you correctly, really what we're just trying to do is make a realistic goal.
Absolutely. You want to be a realistic goal that you are able to actually track with hard, tangible data to track whether or not you're meeting those.
And if I want a realistic goal, I can be aggressive in that, right? I don't have to. It can still be worthy of pursuit, right? But something like quadrupling your business, that's not, unless you only have one customer, that's probably not realistic.
Yeah, you want to aim to improve, but by kind of setting unattainable goals, then you're kind of just setting yourself up for failure and for difficulty in tracking that. So, if you're saying, "Hey, I want to increase my sales by 20% of year over year, or even 30 or 40% year over year," and there's a plan for you to do it, then that is a tangible goal. But if you're saying, "Hey, I want to increase my sales by 80%," and I'm and all that I have in place is the same old stuff that I've been doing, then that's not probably a realistic goal.
Gotcha. So it's important, I think, to talk about how marketing has changed really in the last 10 years. So what we have on the left here is the traditional sales funnel. So this is something they teach in the first day of business school, and everybody's recognizing it. Everybody understands what it is. So marketing will help you prospect, get people who are interested, then that gets turned over to the sales department. They synthesize those people down into customers. It's pretty basic. It's been there forever. It's something that, everybody's familiar with. But that's not really the case anymore, is it, Ryan?
No, sir, it's not. The kind of new way to think about everything is the flywheel process. And kind of what the flywheel does is it makes sure that all activities are putting the customer at the center of all of your interactions.
Yeah, and when you are talking to a customer, you notice on the left, the customer is not even part of your process anymore.
Sure.
Whereas on the right, they're right in the middle, and they're going to stay right in the middle.
Hmm.
And that's because how you talk to somebody in a marketing stage, which is another way to say it is the attract stage, is
Hmm.
just as important as how you sell to them. And how you sell to them is just as important as how you service the client and how you deliver on your promise. So anything that's customer facing is now flat because it really gives you a great opportunity to grow and deepen that relationship if you are using the techniques of realizing that any customer centered strategy is going to help give you an opportunity to really wow the client. And so the three things together, the marketing, the sales, and the delivery, which we renamed Attract, Engage, and Delight, now help spin with the client as the center.
And I think kind of piggybacking off of that is when you're looking at the different stages, like let's take for instance the attract a stage above, um, how you're speaking to a current or past client versus a potential client is going to look a lot different. So you might um, say put out a Facebook ad that links back directly to your services, trying to attract a new customer. However, if you're talking about a previous customer or somebody that is a current customer, then you might send a targeted email inviting them to check out, kind of a sister service to what they're already utilizing. So they use the data, and you're going to want to make sure that you are engaging with all of the different kind of prospects um, all the way through.
Yeah. So one of the things that we ask people when we start a growth driven design project, or really any project, is what does your flywheel look like? More than likely you've got a sales process, you've got a marketing process, but what's your delight process? How do you really give somebody a wow experience so that they feel good and they want to tell other people about it? And I think of that as the answer to the guy question. So if I go on Facebook, and oftentimes somebody will ask me, do you have a guy who does this? And I get asked that a lot. My answer is usually yes, but I'm not going to give somebody an answer if I've got a bad experience. I want to make sure it's a good experience because I want that great engage and delight process because I've been delighted in some way. And so those kind of interactions are kind of kind of like a tennis match, and they're happening on a regular basis all over the internet right now. But they're also being done in a way that thousands of other people can actually see. So when you're thinking about how to grow your business, this is where we start. What's your flywheel? What does it look like for you? And how do you treat your customers through each part of their process? And so at the center of that is really understanding who your customers are. Ryan, do you want to tell us about buyer personas and how we do that at BusyWeb?
Yeah, absolutely. Buyer personas are super important. And as you guys are seeing up on your screen, a buyer persona is plainly a semi-fictional, a representation of your ideal customer that's based on real hard data and educated guesses about their demographics, behaviors, motivations, and goals. But most importantly is what you can glean from putting this stuff together. So it can help you to determine what messages will resonate best with that particular group, what channels are best to reach them, and most importantly, how best to convert them from a prospect into a sale and user of your product.
And when you're talking about figuring out that somewhat a fictional representation, really it's not just the money, right? It's also how well they work with you.
Sure, absolutely. I remember we were talking with a printing company at the beginning of the year, one of my first actual outings with you, and you turned them on to a tip where they actually re-engaged and delighted some past customers and clients, got them a bunch of new business that they generated with a lot of bigger name people, so big bulk orders, and and in doing so, they actually realized, A, this isn't our target group. This is not who we want to go after. They were able to go back and kind of shore up their buyer persona to make sure that they were actually targeting the best fit people for their company's growth goals and needs.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It just goes to show you, if more people listen to me, they all make more money. So this is how we lay out what a blueprint for lead generation looks like. So the 4 stages of selling really are attract, convert, close, and delight. And so to start with, you've got strangers, and that's really where a business starts. Nobody's got anything, and the way you attract people is through things like keywords, so you're found easier, sharing blogs, which really help become thought leadership, and then publishing on social media. Then eventually you start getting a following, and you really want to hone in on that buyer persona that Ryan just talked about, and you want to start converting those people into clients, and you do that through giving them opportunities to talk to you, like a form, which really is just the equivalent of somebody throwing up a hand saying, I'd like to learn more. Calls to action is a fancy marketing way of inviting somebody to take an action, which you can then track, and you do that through landing pages. And then once that happens, they become a lead. Then your next responsibility is to close them. You do that through sharing workflows, sharing email, and tracking all that information in a CRM. So then they become a customer. Once they're a customer, you want them to become a promoter. So the way you do that is you follow them on social media. You're continually engaging with them beyond just the website and beyond the sale, because they're still a part of your world. They're still the center of your world. And the website, especially a growth-driven website, hits all of those things and continually gets better. So what does the growth-driven design process look like? It's first, it starts with strategy. And that's to really have an understanding of what are the fundamental issues that somebody's going to come to you for. Either you're providing a service or providing a thing, or a service to get a thing, but ultimately you're solving a problem. And so by laying out what exactly is that problem that you solve, then you can figure out how to understand better how your website can demonstrate that you can solve that problem. So in the strategy phase, you're actually sitting down and writing things like your business goals out, if you haven't done so already. Your website goals should follow suit from that. You want to figure out what are the assumptions that you're making about your buyer personas, and are you correct or are you not correct? And if you aren't correct, or if you lay them out as an actual assumption, okay, great. Well then, let's make sure that we follow those and make sure they're correct through journey mapping. And then we also brainstorm a wish list, something where we can always follow up and figure out, is this something that we really need right now, or would it be kind of cool to have later? And so if it's not something we need right now, well, that's great. Let's put it on the wish list and take it to the next step. So the next step from that is creating a launch pad. So a launch pad it looks like a full-blown website, and it's better than what you've got right now, but it still leaves room for improvement on purpose. Because really what we're going to want to do is create some quick wins. So we've created this new website. We want to get more value out of it, and generally that needs more leads. So, okay, how do we accelerate that approach to get better leads in quicker? How do we create effective content development, and how do we measure what we're getting versus what we'd like? And are those two things the same things? And then ultimately the byproduct of all this is that you get to find out that maybe you have some inefficiencies in your process. And so in doing so, you get the opportunity to get better at your own process in order to deliver quicker and faster. Once you've got that Launchpad site launched, and then you start really collecting the data. And then you follow sort of this endless loop of plan, build, learn, and transfer. So once you've established what a real thing is that needs to be changed, then you're going to change it. And then once you change it, then you're going to reevaluate, figure out, did this give us the intended goal? Are we getting better or worse, or are we staying the same? Okay, great. Now what's the next thing? And you do it over and over and over again. We have some continuous improvement websites that are in, I don't know, what would you say, Ryan, like the 40th iteration right now?
At least,
Yeah,
at least.
absolutely. So when you talk about the continuous improvement process, and I think I laid this out just a little earlier, it's once you've built out the Launchpad site, you're really looking at the performance versus your goals. And in order to do that, you have to track the data, make sure that your goals are in fact realistic. You also want to make sure that you're getting input from marketing and sales. Are the marketing people getting the information that they need about who's coming to the website? And are the salespeople getting the leads? You know, salespeople, they're a bunch of crying little folk who only want to have more leads, and they'll just say, I want more leads, and the leads aren't good enough, the leads aren't better enough. So you have to draw them out of that, and the way you do that is by asking them on the upfront, how do we make this better, and how do we improve this, and help us help you. We actually got a Jerry Maguire quote in today, so that's great. And then that wish list that you had before, prioritize. What are you going to do first? What are you going to do second? And based on a value proposition from sales and marketing too. So they know where their stuff is in the process of being built, and they know how it's a priority in the rest of the process as well. So once you do that, then you get some action items that you want to improve and those typically fall into about 4 different categories. Is number one, you want to either boost conversion. There are a couple of choices that you can make there, or improve the user experience. So if they're just coming and they're leaving quickly, well, it's probably because they're just trying to get your phone number and then call you, because they're not having their questions answered. So how can you make the experience better? Are you getting more people on mobile than you're getting on anything else? How can you make the navigation clearer? Stuff like that. And then third, is it personalized enough to the user? So if you're asking for a CTA, is that something where you can club them over the head and say, I want money right now, sign up here and give me your credit card? Well, if you're buying an $8 ice cube tray, then, maybe, but to have a long-term business relationship, probably not. So you want to make sure that the CTAs are getting used. And so you're also tailoring based on interest and geolocation. So I think we had a hardwood floor company here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and their name is the Armagh Hardwood Floor Company. Armagh is also the name of Ireland, the name of a city in Ireland. So there are, because we're actually pretty good at our job, the local company gets a ton of leads for the Irish flooring company, and then they just send them over. So geolocation actually does have a certain amount of value. And then you want to build new, interesting marketing assets. So what are some tools, what are some giveaways that you can give people as a demonstration of thought leadership? What are some marketing resources, like one pages, things like that you can give to people? And how many places can you put the website? Directories are great. way to pick up wind speed with SEO very, very quickly. So that being said, how long does it take to go from nothing to warp speed? So here's what a sample timeline looks like. So in an ideal world, and of course this is highly fictionalized because we're talking about Star Trek today, but for the most part, we've got this down to about a 90-day start to finish before we can launch a website. So the first 30 days is strategy, where we're answering all those questions about what does our ideal customer look like, what do we need to tell them, how do we need to tell them things, and in what manner do they need to be told those things. And then we build the thing. The thing isn't perfect, but it's better than what we've got. And it gives us an opportunity to test our theories to see if it matches up with what our ideal customers want. And then we go into monthly cycles where we're continually trying to get better on our conversion rate and better on results. So this isn't something as simple as just getting more visibility, because that doesn't actually drive as much revenue as we'd like. Really what it is we want to make sure that we're getting the bottom line out of this, which is more leads and better value out of our website. So creating goals and making sure that your goals are met, either on a monthly goal, quarterly goal, 6-month goal, all of those need to be met. And even if you're not meeting them on the first month, you're growing towards it. And then at the end of the first year, you've got to reset all of them, because your company's in a different place. And just like the world we live in right now, what we have today is completely different than what we had yesterday. So reset your goals every year. So just as sort of final thoughts, and Ryan, I appreciate you being here today with us, is growth-driven design, much like hiring somebody new, like we did with you, Ryan, is a process. You start with something that's good, and yet you want it to get better. And so you train it, and you give it feedback, and you work with it, and you coach it. And so in doing so, it's going to help your sales and marketing, and your audience is going to learn and grow along with you. So they're going to continually feel good about coming back to your website on a regular basis and sharing the information that you provide. So our mantra here at BusyWeb, easiest way to make money in marketing is measure, track results, and show a return on investment. And if you can't get a return on investment, well, it's time for something to change. So finally, as Jerry Springer's final thought, we want to make sure that you live long and prosper. Can you do that hand thing, Ryan?
Not for $1 billion.
Oh, it takes some practice. It's not the easiest thing. It's the easiest thing to do to get started. But
so you can do it. You can do it.
I can. Yeah.
You're gonna have to show me after this. You're gonna have to prove it.
Yeah. Okay. I will. If you're listening to this and you want proof, send me an email and I'll take a picture of myself holding up the Vulcan sign of peace. But yeah, this isn't a quick process by any means. It's something where you want to get better continually, and it's going to be something that hopefully will be growing throughout the length of your company. And you want prosperity. You want it to get better, and you want it to deliver value. That's the whole shooting match right there. So for those of you who have been listening politely to our discussion with Ryan Washington today, we are going to give you a free copy of our ebook, An Introduction to Growth-Driven Design, and how you can incorporate it into your web design project. And you will get an email from that later. But if you're listening to this on YouTube later after the fact, just drop us a note and we'll be more than happy to share it if you've lasted this long and laughed politely at our jokes. So next month's webinar, like Moneyball for your website, we're going to talk about the 5 best practices we've learned and the keys to good growth-driven design. So we're going to talk again about growth-driven design, how it affects your rankings, how to really track results, and how to really dive very, very, very deep into what a good actionable result will look like. That's going to be on Wednesday, August the 5th. And if you're interested in going, you will see that at busyweb.com/events, or I probably can send you an email or two. So thanks again. If you're Ryan, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, just thank you so much for letting me join in
Yeah,
and
thank you
here.
for
Yeah,
helping.
hopefully you'll let me piggyback and join in and tune in with you some other time.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure having you. So if you're interested in talking to Ryan, his phone number's up on the screen there. You can also reach him at ryan@busyweb.com. Or you can always reach me at trigby@busyweb.com. And I'm thankful I'm not wearing that shirt, Ryan. Like the first 5 webinars I did this year, it just so happened that I was wearing that shirt the whole time. I feel like, and then I get to this point, I think, God, do I have another shirt that I could wear?
I've seen that shirt a lot, Trigby.
Yeah, I
I've
know.
seen
I
I've
gotta
seen
get
it a
more
lot.
shirts. So thanks everybody for joining us. Have a safe month of July, wherever you might be. And if you need some help on anything in growing your business, we'd love to talk to you. Thanks again. We'll see you next time at the next Busy Web.